Have you had your coffee yet?
I've had a couple of sips.
Is it always an Americano? Is that always the drink of choice?
Always an Americano or a long black. Yeah,
Okay.
which there's a lot of debate over which one of those things is actually.
I think that's the same thing.
Yeah, well, let's not get into that.
Okay.
Another time.
I think a good place to start, a few months ago, I can't remember how many months ago, I came into the office, the Summize office. Here's Harvey, the fractional general counsel, consultant for Summize. So before we go into the work you kind of do now as a fractional GC and as a consultant, not just for businesses like Summize, but many businesses, take me back, Harvey, to the very beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I think I followed a fairly well-trodden route when it comes to legal career. I started out at a big law firm in the city in London, did that for a few years, realised that private practice wasn't quite for me, and then ended up going in-house at WeWork at the time, before I went on to another business where I was head of legal at a VC-backed consumer tech startup that was London-based, and then I decided to set up Plus GC, which is where I'm at now.
I think you've definitely disrupted the traditional legal model of, when I speak to many in-house counsel or legal disruptors who studied law, went to private practice, moved in-house, a few of them are more the ones that are what I would class as legal disruptors, a bit more successful, have then gone on their own path, whether that's consultancy work, fractional work. Is that the path to go in, or is that just a path for certain lawyers in a certain lifestyle?
I think there's been a shift now whereby you're seeing a lot of top talent, really talented lawyers choosing to work in this way. It's not because they want to kind of take a step back. It's because they just want to work in a different way.
Yep.
But it's people who are either coming out of top firms, or people who've been in really quite senior in-house legal roles and been excelling there, but they're making an active choice to work in this way, which changes things drastically, and which is why I think that this model is here to stay.
So when you go into a company or they hire you for your fractional services or your consultancy work, do you find that they often have a task for legal, whether it's a contracting task or advice, whatever it might be, but then you go in and you can kind of show them actually legal's a bit more than this. I can, as a legal person, help with strategic growth. I can drive some more revenue. Do you find that businesses know that side, or that when you come into a business, you're able to show them that side as well?
It's a great question. I mean, I think many of the clients that I'm working with, I'm like almost their first taste of legal support. That's not a law firm.
Yep.
And so I do think a massive part of the role is kind of educating them on what the role of legal is. Of course, a really important part of any lawyer's role is to manage risk and mitigate risk, but just as important are the ability to drive growth and increase revenue, and input on strategy, and act as a leader, kind of implementing good practice, good governance, being operationally involved to help make things more efficient, and being an operator in that way.
Do you have any advice for how a young lawyer, or any lawyer who can do that? Some lawyers may have been in the game for 20, 30 years and are still stuck in that risk mitigator, that solving challenges, and want to move to more that commercial advice, strategic advice.
It's interesting. I've been mentoring a junior lawyer, and it's something that we spoke about this very question quite recently. And I think the tips that I gave when we had that conversation were, you place yourself in situations where you're considered an equal with commercial folks or operational folks. Like, anything you can do to kind of limit that perception that there's us and there's them, which exists in many organizations when it comes to legal. It's like we're the commercial operational people and they're the lawyers, and we need to go to them, but they are them and we are an us. I think if you want to be a lawyer who is striving to be more involved in commercial and operational things, making sure that you spend time with those people and I mean time in real life, not like time speaking to someone on Slack like a lot of people do now, but I mean spending time with those people, learning from them, understanding the language that they use, the terms that they're using, how they think about issues. I think throwing yourselves into that is the best way.
And I appreciate that you're going into businesses who have never had a legal function before. So for them to even get legal tech or AI is quite a big step because they've never even had a legal facility altogether. So I kind of just want to then talk about how you then introduce the likes of tech into some of these businesses. How can they be comfortable with it? Does it play a role for those businesses who may not have a legal function, or do they need a lawyer to implement that tech and to facilitate it over time?
My take when it comes to the use of AI for in-house legal work is that you need to have identified the problem that you're trying to solve well before you get to the conversation about what AI tools should we be using. So many organizations will have challenges when it comes to contracting or intake or all the things that we know Summize can be an amazing solution for. But I feel like you have to suffer the pain first and kind of have acknowledged the pain and identified the pain point to then realize, okay, that's something that Summize would be great to solve for. Whereas I think what's happening a lot is people are talking about, we need to be using AI, and should we use this tool and should we use that tool? And I say back to them, well, what you're trying to solve? and the answer is sometimes, well, I don't know, you tell me. And I'm like, well, that's not the right way around. Like, you need to know what it is that you're trying to solve for. So I think there has to be that phased approach where if you're a business never had legal before, you need to have someone supporting you and guiding you through, let's take contracting process as an example, and you need to experience that before deciding, well, could we actually make this more efficient by using AI?
There is a pressure sometimes from stakeholders or management to adopt new tools, implement them. Can they make us go faster? Can we double your output without having to hire somebody else? And that's scary for a lot of people because firstly, they don't want to lose their work, they don't want to lose the control. And then having all these AI tools doesn't mean it's going to solve the problems, as you say. You need to know what the problem is to begin with. Have you found any ways that businesses can almost get themselves ready when they are ready to implement tech?
Like we talked about, you need to understand what the challenges are. And I think you also need to understand or have someone that can act as that bridge between the issue that you're experiencing and what the tech can do to help you solve it. And like what I'm doing with some Summize customers, right? We're working with certain customers who they know the issues and they know that Summize would be a good way to solve it. But I think that having someone who can bridge that gap between the legal issues that or the operational issues that relate to legal that need solving and actually helping implement that, I think is really helpful.
So I can appreciate that lawyers, and again, many of the job roles and departments, as I said, they've got this pressure to adopt new tools, whether it's kind of budget restraints, we can't hire more people, we need to get more done. They want to be dabbling in some of these tools, but they might not actually have the bandwidth to then, as you say, fully identify all the problems, implement all these new tools, be that bridge. What can a lawyer do now to kind of cover all those bases successfully?
I mean, it's really difficult for certainly lawyers who are in small legal teams. A lot of lawyers are like sole counsel and they're kind of just on their own. So I've been there, and I've been in that position where you know that you'd like to look at ways to kind of optimize a contracting process or optimize the way that you store documents or whatever it is. You know that there are opportunities to find efficiencies there, but you're so bogged down in the day-to-day that it becomes like near on impossible to do that because you just don't have the time. I think what I would say in those types of situations is to find other people within the organization who may not have legal expertise, but who are good operators who know how to just make things work more efficiently, and they're inquisitive and curious about how technology can help improve processes, and like get them on board. And you know, you might say, well, but they're not part of my team, they've got their job to do. But I feel like there are, you know, in so many businesses there are people who just genuinely have an interest in like tech and this whole world. And so having those people on side and kind of being able to leverage them to come and help you is from my experience a really good way of kind of you know, being able to put it on, share the challenge, right, and bring someone else in who's just really interested.
Well, I think that's a kind of good way to end our conversation, Harvey. You've been really helpful in many ways, just firstly talking about how lawyers can become part of those strategic commercial conversations much more, and then kind of overcoming the fear of where to get started with AI or the pressures of having to adopt too-many AI tools that are not going to solve the issue. So thank you so much for your time and disruptive conversation. Where can people find out more about you or listen to more of your more advice or consultancy work?
Well, thank you for having me, first and foremost. And in terms of where to find me and hear a bit more about me, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So yeah, find me on there, connect with me on there, Harvey Kaye, and yeah, look forward to it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.